these the Nazis, Walter?
No, Johnny, these men are nihilists. There's nothing to be afraid of.
The Big Lebowski is a 1998 film written by the Coen brothers, directed by Joel Coen and produced by Ethan Coen. It mirrors, sort of, the narrative but not the tone of a Raymond Chandler noir, in that we follow the main character as he elbows his way through a cast of sleazeballs and weirdos on an extra-legal hunt to find a kidnapped wife, a urine-soaked rug, a bowling trophy, and of course, Kahlua. It's a film that I watch several times a year because I find it so compellingly funny. I can watch it over and over again without vomiting blood, so kind of like the anti-Threads. But apart from the comedy coup de grace, I think it offers a window into American decadence without it explicitly being about that or even commenting on it. I think. Whatever. So the assertion I'm making here isn't that The Big Lebowski is about decadence, but rather that one way of interpreting it is that it reflects contemporary decadence in its characters, settings, and events, without a particular agenda or point to be made beyond, look at this. And that certainly isn't the only way to interpret some of the film's subtext. I find the idea that its characters represent conflicting generational and ideological caricatures in 1991, when the film is set, pretty convincing. The dude and his two bowling league teammates, Walter and Donnie, are broadly 3 points of the political mainstream, again as caricatures. The dude is a pot-smoking, day-drinking liberal who may well be living off of an inheritance, settlement, or through some form of unmentioned handout. Walter is a quick-to-violence, line-in-the-sand small business owner whose entire worldview has been deeply affected by his service in Vietnam. And Donnie is, rather than somewhere between the two, not on the political spectrum at all, but more along for the ride and just wants to bowl, and ends up as a victim of his friends' bickering and scheming. Then we have the Big Lebowski himself, who the dude, sharing the same name, has been mistaken for, starting the whole story.
Your revolution is over, Mr. Lebowski. Condolences. The bums lost. The bums will always lose. Do you hear me, Lebowski?
His daughter and wife, the later being much younger than the former, might represent different waves of feminism or sides of women's liberation, with the daughter, Maud, being a highly educated artist, and the wife being a teen runaway porn star. And of course, we have the greatest generation, waiting to die, and the old spirit of America, or the fantasy of it, in Sam Elliott's narrator, as a bygone entity confused and amused by Los Angeles. I'm convinced some of these ideas were, in some form, part of the Coens' thought process when they wrote the script, which they wrote with inspiration from some real-life anecdotes and wacky people that they'd come across in their lives. How much, and how directly, well, that's up for debate. But for me, the decadence, or, if you like, society's self-indulgent bullshit, are more core to the film than a direct representation of politics, and thematically present in virtually every scene.
What do you do for recreation?
Oh, the usual. Bowl, drive around.
So what I mean is, the dude and Walter may be, from what we can tell, politically at odds, but they're united when it comes to making a quick buck and ripping someone off. They, and the culturally uninterested Donnie, recreationally play a sport where people, often quite hefty people, are smoking and drinking constantly. Their competitors are losers and paedophiles. They're friends, but they aren't really that close, and they must be Donnie's two best friends because no one else deals with his ashes, but they don't know anything about him beyond he loved to bowl and used to surf.
I I am the walrus.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Walter is obviously traumatized by Vietnam and brings it up even when it is irrelevant, but no one else cares. All three seem to live in their own worlds, and for all the talking and arguing, they never really communicate meaningfully. They, like all the other characters, are self-involved and pretty uninterested in other people beyond the casual. And the Big Lebowski himself is these things too, plus a hypocrite to boot. He isn't self-made, but survives on his widow's trust, and revels in pomposity and self-aggrandizement and the idea that he has achieved through his own hard work. He is married to an underage trophy wife who has no interest in him, never could, and who only wants to party, and he is indulged and his narcissism fed by an employed lickspittle that would make Mr. Smithers blush. The Big L's daughter, Maud, uses her financial freedom to make highly produced but intellectually derivative art, and in truth the appearance of being an artist is what attracts her. She and her tittering video artist friend are both successful phonies. Like her father, it is appearance that matters most. The police are generally incompetent, disinterested, or in the case of Malibu's chief of police, in the virtual employ of a gangster pornographer. He, Jackie Treehorn, wears a veneer of class at odds with his reality. His fame, wealth, and power are built on decadence. Then, of course, we have the nihilists, who are probably the most honest in their own labelling, but total losers nonetheless. Who would have thought? They're not really nihilists as much as opportunistic criminal wannabes. Why do they want to pretend that they've kidnapped Mrs. Big Lebowski? What do they want to do with the money? Just piss about. But really, there's an element of nihilism in almost all the characters. Not the thus spake actively miserable type, ahoy, but the rudderless, directionless, doesn't really, at the end of the day, all said and done, have much conviction about anything type. I think the Coens did really well in capturing this, which the opening frames as belonging to a specific place and time, but I would suggest can apply far beyond Los Angeles and across several seas and eras, without necessarily making the Big Lebowski about that or commenting on it. When watching it, I'm always reminded of the quote from SLC Punk: "People, houses, roads, cars, what else do you think is out there?" It's sort of like the Big Lebowski reflects the reality of that attitude as a constant undercurrent. I don't think the Big Lebowski is a film about decadence as much as it is a comedy about silly characters on a funny adventure with the decadence highlighted, and I don't think it is especially critical of what I'm describing as decadence, but rather observational of it, almost as if Sam Elliott himself is saying, "This place is nuts, huh? Sarsaparilla me." All that said, The Big Lebowski is one of my favourite films because of its humour and performances, not because it's examining or reflecting social decay or anything. But at the same time, I think it might be the Coens' most insightful film. But that's just like my opinion, man. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and, Patreon and like the video and all of that, and oh heck, that's my train of thought. Well, thanks for watching. The Dude Abides.